Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Janine Luby. And I'm recording this on a lovely rainy Monday. And I say lovely because I like rain. I think there's a lot of people out there who actually do. I think rain gets a really bad rap, honestly. Of course, we love sunshine because we feel like we can do more outside. But of course, we know the earth needs rain, our plants need rain. And I personally just kind of have a philosophy where I like a rainy day because it seems slower paced to me. There's something, it's kind of like a warm duvet, like a comforter, a cozy little comforter. And I just like that every now and again because to me it slows things down. So I like it. So today, and I think it's kind of fitting because today I'll be talking with someone whose role is really environmentally focused and who personally appreciates the environment and is active in that way. So I just kind of think that's a good sign from the heavens, the earth, or whatever we want to say with the rain falling. So as you know, if you're a regular listener, I always like to say at the beginning just a little bit briefly of how I know my guest, because I do think it's important that we continue to get out there, be curious, get to know people. Maybe you're at an event, maybe it's a fun event, it's an art event, it's an environmental event, maybe it's a business mixer, whatever it is, meeting someone, keeping their business card, learning from them. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't need, I'm not interested in this attorney or this plumber or this artist or whatever, but as humans, just to connect as humans, because I feel like we can always find value in just talking and connecting with one another, and you never know. So my guest this week I actually was connected with through Rich Perry. He is someone, I honestly forget where we first met, but last March, I was doing this project that was environmentally related. It was Restart Scranton, which I'm still doing the initiative, but initially I had funding so that we could get artists involved, and we were picking up litter and we were doing art projects, upcycled art projects. And Rich is like, you should know Rachel Stark because she's in the environmental space. And I think you guys would, have a lot to talk about. He connected us. And now I know that she's very good friends with Anthony Melf, who got a huge shout out a few weeks ago when Shay and I spoke. Anthony does know everybody. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest this week. It's Rachel Stark. Welcome. Yeah, welcome, Rachel. Don't mind
Welcome.
me. I have not been drinking wine. I know it's 2 o'clock, but that doesn't mean anything. But no, I have not been. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How about Anthony does know pretty much everyone, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could probably drive across the state and still meet somebody that happens to know him.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because it was Rich, but as I was thinking today, recounting, I'm like, I was gonna say Anthony, but it was actually Rich. But Anthony is a good friend of Rachel's as well. So,
Uh-huh.
but tell me, I know that you're really involved in the environment and you personally enjoy that a lot. But if you don't mind sharing just a little bit for my listeners and myself to learn a bit more about you, like maybe where you're from, a little bit about you, your background.
Sure. Well, first tidbit that I want to say is I definitely agree with your sentiments on rainy days. I always say that you're never going to see salamanders if you don't learn to enjoy a little rain because they're always going to be out on the rainy days. I happen to love salamanders, so a rainy day hike is always nice and refreshing. One
Nice.
of my favorite things, yeah. But I grew up here in northeastern PA. I went to Wyoming area, and I actually, despite everything I do now and my love for salamanders and bugs and all of those things, did not really spend much time outside aside from my backyard. So just, more of an indoors kid or just kind of hanging out in the yard, catching lightning bugs and ladybugs and things like that, but nothing beyond that. And then when I was about 14, I joined the scouting program, the venturing program, which is co-ed through the Boy Scouts of America, now Scouting America, high adventure program for youth age 14 to 21. And I went camping for the first time at 14 years old. And that weekend, I did like a polar bear plunge and I went rock climbing and I did all of these really fun things outside and just really started to find that that was my place. So I ended up doing my senior project in forestry and going and job shadowing a forester and realizing, like, okay, I think this is actually what I want to do. So I ended up going to King's College. They have a great environmental studies program there that I pursued. Really just kind of dove right in. They had like a lot of classes where you could really, get your hands dirty. We had like a Chesapeake Bay class where we went down to the bay, an Adirondack class where we went hiking in the Adirondacks. I had one where we camped every weekend at my
Oh,
professor's
wow.
lab and got to like trap small mammals and do electroboat fishing and all this really cool stuff. And then after graduation, I actually, weird circles of life, ended up working for the Boy Scouts of America. Uh, I was there for 4 years. It was a fantastic time, kind of almost combining sort of ish my two loves, one for the outdoors and the other for scouting, because I recognized, what an important foundation that was for me and spent the 4 years there until COVID happened and really just reevaluated where I was and decided I wanted to, get more focused on the environmental stuff and started to pursue my master's degree at that time as well, just to kind of open up more doors for myself. And then got lucky that while I was in the middle of all of that, this job here that I'm currently in with the Pennsylvania Environmental Council opened up. And now I've been here almost 5 years. And
Oh,
and
wow.
along the way, I did end up completing that master's degree too. So yeah, it's come full
Well,
circle.
I love that you now you said you didn't go camping until 14. For me, that's early because I didn't really discover my love for the environmental later. But I think it's great. I mean, for you, you learned early enough that you were able to really hone in on what you wanted for college and then afterwards, which I think is great. But I think it's also cool too that like for me, I call myself a late bloomer in a lot of my interests that like if someone listening is 45 or 50 and they're like, well, I've never really gone camping or fishing or doing any of that, you still can. I mean,
Oh,
obviously, you still can discover, and that's the great thing that it's never too late to become curious and learn about that. But I love that you had all those experiences in college. Like that sounds so hands on that you
yeah.
really get to get the feel of whether you would really want to pursue it or not afterwards.
Yeah, no, it was an awesome program. I mean, like we had so much fun. It was, you're just learning by doing, which is really, really
Mm.
awesome. Fully immersing yourself in that experience. And, it never felt like schoolwork. It never felt like I was being forced to do anything. Like I was definitely in the right place there.
Yeah, that sounds great. And to your point about the rain, I unfortunately am not running these days, but I will tell you, I used to love a rainy day run. I mean, for
Yeah.
me, it was so refreshing. And it was, I mean, obviously not if it's like 40 degrees, because then you get the
Yeah.
chill to your bone. But even I would say like above 50, like 55, I would just be so cool because I did not like hot weather. So a
Uh-huh.
day late, I was looking out earlier and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind being out
It's
in
nice
this
today.
today. Yeah, I
Hmm.
kind of like it. Yeah.
And no
So
one's out, to your
and no,
point
and you're
too.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. No one is out. I think that's great. And tell me a little bit. I'll go into this only because I mentioned the rain and the salamanders. So can people there's certain seasons for little certain creatures and critters, right? Because I remember hiking in I want to say it's like Moscow. There's a little trail back there. And I don't know if they're called newts. I forget what they are, but they're orangish in color. And there's a certain season, I guess. And I saw first time I had ever seen them, and I'm like, they were everywhere. I'm like, these are so cute. They were all over.
Yeah, yeah. So you're talking about the red eft, they or the red spotted newt. They're called both. So they're a really, really unique creature, actually. You could find them anytime in the summer. Typically, most salamanders are going to start coming out as soon as it's warming up. So like March, April timeframe, when you're seeing toads all over the road, most likely salamanders are coming out too. And then, going back to sleep for the winter around October, November. But those guys, so they're the red spotted newt. They start their life in water and then they leave the water as the red eft. It's kind of like their teenager phase, and those are the bright orange ones that you're talking about that have the little spots on them. If you go out on a rainy day, and where you're talking about in Moscow, the North Pocono trails are a great spot because it's very damp in there. That moisture gets kind of locked in. So a day or two after you get a really good rainfall, they're always all over the place. And then, yeah, since that's their teenage form, they actually end up going back to the water and kind of metamorphizing back to that spotted newt, which has the same spots, but is a little bit bigger, a little bit like darker green kind of color instead of that bright orange. So
Oh
pretty
wow.
cool.
I didn't know that. That's really cool. I mean, like literally the first time I saw them, like, oh my God, there's one. There's another one. I was
Uh-huh.
just super excited. And then of course I started paying attention more to what other people were saying in different places where they would see them,
Yeah.
which I think that's just one of the coolest things about hiking, like discovering, especially going to different trails, because you're likely to see something maybe that you wouldn't have at the place that you always go to or whatever. With that in mind, Share some of the places that you love and some of the things that people could watch out for that's cool, whether it's like, oh, over here is a waterfall, or this one is good because it has different terrain, or what are the places that you like?
Sure, yeah. So two spots that I just went yesterday, the Dick and Nancy Eels Preserve, which is up in Jessup. That's the Nature Conservancy. Really unique spot, was like slated to be developed, and they ended up turning it into this preserve. It's a really unique ecosystem there. They actually use fire, prescribed fire that's managed really well, to kind of keep that landscape just the way that it is, so that you're not letting anything outgrow what's already there. You're going to end up with a lot of more fire resistant species like scrub oak and the low brush blueberries and things like that. Which is great because then end of July-ish, if you go there for a hike, actually even right now, they were starting to come out. There's blueberries all over the place. So that's one of the things that I love there. And then it's a great spot for sunrise or sunset. Also a great spot for sunrise or sunset if you go in Pinchot State Forest is the Pine Hill Vista. And that you park kind of at the bottom of the road and you just walk up. It's, like a quarter of a mile-ish to get up to the top of the hill. And you have 360 views, so you could see a great sunrise or sunset. And what I love this time of year is like right as the sun is setting, you'll hear the coyotes off in the distance and you hear the whippoorwill, which is my favorite species of bird. It's like it goes whippoorwill, whippoorwill. It's like really nostalgic feeling. It's just so perfect when you're sitting up there. So those are like two that are on the brain because I just did them yesterday in celebration of the solstice. Um,
Oh, nice. And let me ask
yeah.
you, where's the Pine Hills one? Is that the one by Campbell's Ledge, or is that a different location?
No, it's in the Thornhurst track. So if you head up
Okay.
115 and you turn left at the one red light, that's where like Cosenza's is. It's out that way by Mountain Lake. There's a
Hmm.
couple tracks of Pinchot State Forest. So yeah, to clarify, it's in the Thornhurst track up there.
Okay.
So good
Okay,
spot.
that's
There's yeah, dozens of miles of trails up there too.
nice. I the
Mm.
Dick and Nancy eels, I love that too because it's for me, I'm familiar and it's manageable. I mean, not and
Yeah.
there's still so much I haven't seen. I haven't made my way to the waterfall, but there are certain ones like I'll go up by my I know it's not always great to hike by yourself, but I will go up and even just do 30, 40 minutes because I am kind of familiar with certain trails, but that
Yeah.
is a very different like you said, different terrain up there, which I think is really cool. And you're right. I've never been there for sunrise or sunset, but now you're giving me ideas because it is beautiful the view you get from up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And just we do the Blueberry Loop, so it's quick, like, 3.5-ish miles. We hit it at, early in the morning. And then the sun's just starting to peek over the horizon. It's great.
Wow. And what are some of the other places? And then I want to get into more like tips from you about like some safety issues and or just things to be on the lookout for. I love the fact that you just named that bird because I'm becoming over the past few years a bird. I'll call myself a bird nerd, but
Uh-huh.
I do have the Merlin ID, the bird app the identifier, and I have to start remembering to bring it out when I am hiking because there
Oh yeah.
are different birds that of course I don't see in my backyard like at the state park, I see the ones that are, is it scarlet tangier or something like
Oh,
that?
I
I feel like,
love scarlet tanagers. Yeah.
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 But tell us about some of the other places that you enjoy and why.
Yeah. Well, Francis Locum is a great spot because it's close by. It's so easy to get to, about a 10-minute drive from Wilkes-Barre. You can go to different sections within the park and see different things, which is nice. And then I just went to a spot up near Ricketts Glen, State Game Lands 13, because you are allowed to walk on state game lands. Obviously, just wear your orange and just try not to do it maybe during hunting season. But you are allowed to go and hike on these places. They are preserved natural spaces, and State Game Lands 13 has a bunch of waterfalls, and it's up there in the mountains near Ricketts Glen. Just really, really thick, dense forest. What got me really excited about that spot is I found Indian cucumber root, which is a plant. It's a native plant. Uh, and when you pull it out, the root actually tastes like a cucumber. So it's a cool one. Yeah, definitely look it up. It's something that when I was first in scouting, somebody showed me. And this summer, at the beginning of the summer, I said, like, my goal for the summer is to just kind of get back into like that curious side of nature, like that exploration, and find some of these things that I used to love, like Indian cucumber root. And I did on that hike. So I was thrilled about that. And that's a cool one too. I love finding little edible things.
Yeah, that is really neat. I'm in the middle. I'm not finished yet, but a forest therapy online certification class,
Oh,
and
cool.
they talk about like the aspect of tasting different, different edible like berries and different things
Hmm.
and foraging and all that. And eventually I do want to like kind of combine my laughter therapy in like green spaces. But I said the foraging part and like the eating part I will not be doing because I don't want to kill anyone because I do not, you have to know what you're putting in your mouth, what you're
You do.
tasting.
You do. Yeah. And there's some things like people who like forage for mushrooms, I have all of the respect in the world because there's some things that it's like very obvious. Like I have picked chicken of the woods because there is nothing that looks like chicken of the woods, so I don't have to worry about it. But some of these other ones that are almost identical to like poisonous ones and people are picking them and eating them, like you are impressive. I have so much respect and I love to buy them at the farmer's market and test them out, but you won't see me picking them. Plants, I have a little more confidence because usually they're a little bit easier to tell, especially like some of the edible berries versus the non-edible ones.
Yeah, I would love to learn more. And again, it's just a matter of doing my research, I guess. Different things that like herbs, maybe, or things that grow
Yeah.
that might have some kind of medicinal value because, hey, we're always spending so much at the drugstore, right? If I could
Yeah.
find something that has value that I could actually pluck from somewhere, if you're allowed to pluck, I don't know, but that would be
Yeah.
kind of neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So what are like those are some great ideas for folks who live in Northeast PA. And when you're going hiking, I'm sure many people are like me in the sense that you don't care if it's more than like you're not necessarily if you're short on time, yes, you want someplace close to home. But for
Mhm.
me, I live in Scranton, but I've still been to Ricketts Glen, and that's a good 45, 50-minute ride. But when you're hiking, you don't mind traveling and going different distances to see a beautiful waterfall or just to experience a different trail and different levels of things. I want to ask you, like, for safety wise for the summer, some tips, but I'll start with, I kind of half joked a few minutes ago that I have gone myself. Now, I think do you go with your dog and do you feel safer that way? Or because I hate the idea that you have to, a lot of times you can't manage your schedule with a friends, and sometimes you do go by yourself. And as a woman, I know that's kind of like, oh, you better be careful. But like for me, I've felt comfortable before, but what's your take on that? And if you do have a dog, I feel that adds a little different level there.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely enjoy like solo hiking. Like I'll truly just go out by myself, honestly, without the dog sometimes because he's more of a liability. He's a little 20-pound mutt.
Oh,
I actually last summer, or 2 summers ago, went to Yellowstone National Park and Glacier and the Grand Tetons by myself too, and did a
oh
lot of hiking
wow.
out there solo. So I definitely, my mom does not love hearing those things. I get home from a hike and she'll ask who was with me, and I say I just went by myself, and she gets a little upset. But personally, I think that you're safer in the woods than you are walking around your own neighborhood, as long as you have the right awareness and like you're going into it in a prepared standpoint. I think that women should be more empowered to do like solo trips and solo hiking. And I think that like it's almost a manipulation thing when you're putting this fear onto people. Because again, like, the statistics show that you are safer in the woods than you are walking around your own neighborhood as a woman. So having the ability to do that and then growing that confidence is something that's really nice. Like I've never felt more confident in my own abilities than I did when I got home from that Yellowstone trip and had a phenomenal time by myself.
That's awesome. And that's a great point because I just saw not that long ago, a couple months ago, it was something, I don't know if it was an official survey or something, but it was that women are more afraid of men than a bear. I
Right.
think that like it was some kind of survey like that. And I have a good friend who does self-defense and, he's going to be
Hmm.
tired of me always bringing this up, but he would always be like, oh, Janine, because when I was running, I would run by myself a lot because since I do work for myself, I have my own schedule. A lot of
Hmm.
people are more like 8 to 5, 9 to 5, and they can't go when I go. And I would run by myself, and I have traveled by myself as well. So, and I like the point that you bring up though, because it's this fear that's stopping women from
Hmm.
doing these explorations. Do you think though, now you're someone who really understands the environment because you have the training, you have the background. What would you say for like, I'm totally totally impressed that you did what you did, the Grand Tetons. That's amazing because I would love to get out to Zion, like all those beautiful
Hmm.
places. Everyone in the world seems to be visiting. I keep seeing these beautiful like red, and I'm like, oh my god, I got to
Yeah.
get there. But what would you say? And I guess this leads into what I said I was going to talk to you about safety. You said as long as they're going in with the right like viewpoint or the right preparation,
Yeah.
what would you say? They're not all going to have the same knowledge as you, but what are some things that would help prepare them so they do know what to expect?
I think basic preparation that anybody should do, like not just women, literally anybody heading into the woods. There's apps like All Trails where you could get the paid subscription. It's like $50 a year, and you could download the route. And it's not perfect, but if you at least have that on your phone, you have like Google Maps downloaded, like those kind of things, it's helpful. If you're going somewhere where you're truly going to have no service, like when I went to Alaska last year. I had one of the Garmin devices that you have access to internet no matter what, like no matter where you are, because it's using whatever Elon Musk's thing is.
The
Um,
satellite link thing?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was fantastic. Like the one good thing that he has done is that because I'm in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, above the Arctic Circle, and I'm still able to like just text my mom and say, "Hey, I am alive," just so you know. Um,
Yeah.
so so things like that are great. They are investments, obviously. So, start slow. You don't have to go to Alaska right off the bat, but going to a lot of these national parks, especially ones like Acadia that are like a little more accessible, you're not necessarily getting too far from civilization at any point. Um, do the research of wherever you're going. If you're going to a national park or a state park, like look on their website, find out if there's any advisories, trail closures. Even a lot of times, they'll post pictures of like the trailhead or what it looks like. And then, I always let someone know where I'm going to. And that's more again, and really anybody, like a good thing to do because you don't know what could happen out there. You could just stub your toe really bad
Yeah.
and I can't go on. I'm going to sit here and it would be much better for someone to know where you are, especially in case all else fails and you really don't have service. Leave you could leave your business card or something like that on the rim of your car just so somebody sees it if you were missing for a period of time. Those kind of things that make you a little more identifiable to someone who knows you. But yeah, like just those basic things and then having the awareness as you're walking through. And again, that's really for anyone. Like you should always make sure that you're paying attention to the trail. If you see someone coming, say hello. If you see an animal, you want to be aware of it and keep your distance. So all of those things I think are applicable to everybody, not just women.
Yeah. I think sometimes though your point about like the fear and of course our own minds
Hmm.
creates, because I know when I would do some trail running at the Lackawanna State Park or even just going for a hike by myself, I had so many stories in my head when I heard, branches or like, crunching behind me. I was like, I
Hmm.
had like the serial killer, the worst one in the planet behind me because of my mind. And I was like, or
Yeah.
when there was hunting going on and I would hear shots like
Yeah.
in the distance, I would get myself a little freaked out. And that
Hmm.
feeling is a little, now, of course, at the state park, it's like, I don't know why I bothered to get afraid because the road is really not that far from anywhere. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But you, again, if you let yourself get away with that, your imagination, you just have to, calm that stuff down. And like you're saying, be prepared. I think
Hmm.
what you're saying, if you're doing like a bigger hike, leaving something in your car that's recognizable, I think that is important because you do hear stories every now and again about hikers going missing. Maybe someone gets
Yeah.
hurt or they fall or something. Maybe the trail wasn't safe that they were on. That stuff does happen, and that could be
Right.
anyone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And some trailheads even they'll have like a place for you to check in so that like again if something happened like it's documented where you were going so that like they know like maybe where to look for you if they needed to. But again, like yes, you see it in the news. It's always top news when those things happen, but like the chance of that happening is lower than, the fender bender that happens like on Main Street every single day. Like, those kind of things are few and far between when there are millions of people visiting national parks every single year. Of course, there are going to be things that happen, but that's one in literal millions of people.
Yeah, and that's just the nature, I guess, of our society and of media, right? It's like,
Right.
that put it into context, like the shark bites or whatever. It's like how
Yes,
many were like, "Oh
exactly.
my God, someone was bitten off the coast or whatever." And it's like, how often does that happen and how many swimmers are there and all that stuff. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even just like the way it's written too. Like I remember seeing an article last year, like wolf attack for the first time in decades, and everyone's sharing it like, oh my God, a wolf attack. It wasn't a person that it attacked. It was like it was a cow. It was a livestock that it attacked. Like there's not very many documented things of wolves attacking people. They try to steer clear. So, it's just some of those things too, like people read the headline and they don't dive in, and so they then manufacture this fear that they don't need to have, especially of these like wild animals and things like that.
Yeah. That clickbait. I think
Yeah,
that's pretty much what we
exactly.
live on these days, which is
But no one
really
clicks it.
not a good thing. Yeah, because people click and then they don't actually dive in and read
Yeah.
anything about that. That's not good. Yeah. Tell me about some of your favorite memories when you were hiking, and tell me a little bit about the trip that you took. I mean, my gosh, Alaska is one of those that's places on my bucket list. There's so many places, but the beauty must be so incredible, and the feeling, like how is it to feel that way? I mean, even just to look up at the sky, I know for me a lot of times even just a sunset, that sense of awe and amazement is just so wonderful. I don't get
Oh, yeah.
tired of it.
Yeah. So I'd say like a couple, and a lot of them go back to the national parks because they are very near and dear to me. So last summer, a couple days before my 30th birthday, I entered my 63rd and final national park in the United States. So that was like
Wow.
a goal of mine. I wanted to hit all of the US national parks before I turned 30. And my last one was Kobuk Valley National Park, which is north of the Arctic Circle in Alaska. And it was a very basic guide service that I took that was like pretty new. They were called Onion Portage Adventures. And it was like I'm emailing the guy a couple weeks before, like, are we still on? I haven't heard anything from you. And he's like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like, meanwhile, I'm like stressing. But the basically a small like bush plane dropped me and my partner at the time in the middle of the wilderness. And this guy who was like the guide service taught us how to control this river raft that would take us 2 miles upriver to the campground that was ready for us. And we had all of our own gear. There was platforms, and there was like a basic like structure that had like some kitchen equipment and things like that in it. But that was that. And he sent us on our way, and it was just so cool. And like right where we officially crossed into the park, I did like a little video celebrating, and that was definitely one of my fondest memories there. And then just, spent a couple nights at this campground where we did not see a single person. And even though we were getting eaten alive by mosquitoes up there, it was like truly just one of these, like, I feel my feet rooting into the ground, like connecting with nature, just feeling like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I've had a lot of those kind of experiences in the national parks, especially where you just make it somewhere and it's like, wow. I mean, like, these places are nationally protected for a reason. They're truly incredible, and it's, marvels of nature, and it's just wonderful that we still have so many places like this. And of course, there's a lot more we can be doing and there's more to be protected, but there's a lot out there to explore too, and a lot of good things that have happened.
Yeah. Now I want to make sure I understand it. Did you visit every single national park in the country? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, there are 63 that are
Wow.
designated national parks, yeah.
That's incredible. And so how many different states?
I should count because I've been asked this before. I honestly don't know. It was probably like maybe like around 25 or so because
Hmm.
there's some like California and Alaska that's like 9 and 8 parks between those two. Pennsylvania doesn't have any national parks. Florida has three. So it's kind of bounces all over the place. But yeah, it's probably about like 20 to 25-ish states. There was one in the US Virgin Islands and
Hmm.
then one in American Samoa. So those were, yeah, especially the
Wow.
Samoa one. That was a really cool experience because the culture is very different there. And just I mean, like riding this bus that cost me 50 cents. It's like an open air bus made of wood. It looks like it's just gonna fall off of the wheels, and like they're blasting this like Island Fusion music, and it's like the Best Friend by Dua Lipa, but it's like Island Fusion version of it. So it was just so cool. And I mean, like people are sitting on each other's laps. This thing was so packed. So it was, man, and that's like on the way into the national park from the airport. So cool.
Oh, wow. So I'm glad I'm learning a lot here because I did not realize that Pennsylvania did not have any national state like parks. What makes something a national, am I saying it right? National park or national
Yeah,
park,
national
right?
park. Yep.
Not national state, but national park. I didn't realize Pennsylvania didn't have any. So what's the classification there? How does that work?
So the National Park Service, which is under the federal banner, they have over 400 different sites, and those could be like, national historic sites, national battlefields, national seashores. We know a lot of these. We have a lot of these here in northeastern PA even. We have Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. We have Steamtown. So basically, the designation just determines what their focus is. So, of course, Steamtown National Historic Site, that's on preserving the history. National parks are specifically for the people. So, national parks get funding to hire rangers to really, beef up interpretive programs, connect people with, connect tourists with nature in a way that like helps to instill that environmental ethic, building infrastructure for camping and, hiking trails and all of those kind of things to like really fully immerse yourself in the experience. So that's the difference. So realistically, like there's a lot of sites managed by the National Park Service that, you know, honestly are probably even more beautiful than some of the national parks. One that's on my bucket list, Pictured Rocks National Seashore, is one that comes to mind. It's in Michigan. It's supposed to be absolutely gorgeous. Is probably, on par with like Voyageurs National Park that's in Minnesota, similar area, kind of similar landscape. So, it was kind of just a thing. Like it's like, okay, this is something that I could aim for. I know there's people out there who aim to do over 400 national park sites, which is certainly a feat. But it's definitely worth like checking out all that you can, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm always curious. It's interesting you said Florida has three, only
Hmm.
because, again, this is my ignorance, my naivety, whatever word we want to say. I mean, I've been to Florida, but I've only been
Hmm.
to like Disney and some beaches. So when I think of hiking, I don't think of Florida. And
Hmm.
yet, watching the news on, unfortunately, probably like more like murder crime, but different shows showing different trails that they would mention. And I guess I just always thought of Florida only as beachy or like
Hmm.
marshy or swampy, and not thinking of trails. What are
Yeah.
the trails like that you explored there?
Well, and that's the thing too, is like it's not always trail centric. So Everglades certainly is. Everglades has some hiking trails and they are marshy. It's not like hiking here in Pennsylvania. It's flat land, it's marshy. They have boardwalk areas to go out on places. They have a like a cycling loop too. But then Biscayne National Park is right there on Key Biscayne, and that's like a good chunk of the national park. I think it's like 80 or 90% is that section of the bay there. And it's preserving like all of the mangroves and all of the different species that really rely on that area. There's some unique structures out in the middle of the bay that were like very wealthy people's houses about 100 years ago. So there's, different things that are being preserved by these national parks and different ways to experience them, which is nice because, I mean, Biscayne is a great example of one that, someone who's not a hiker, but maybe is a cruiser could like hop on a boat all day and you could go and you could explore Key Biscayne. You can hop off the boat, do a little snorkeling or scuba diving in that area, and you never have to go hiking in a mosquito infested trail. So there are like different ways to experience all of these places.
That's awesome. Yeah, I never thought about that. I guess I have to open up my view, my
Yeah.
worldview here because I've never really, I mean, I'm just used to hiking in a hiking sense and trails
Right.
and not thinking that there's so many other things you could explore in these parks,
Mhm.
which is very cool. Yeah, very cool.
I'm the
What is,
same. I'm definitely a hiker, so I get it. Like my mind goes right to that, but yeah,
yeah,
there are always other ways and tried my best to like do a little bit of everything when I would go to these places.
that's wild. I love that you got to explore, and even the one with the different cultural experience, like with the different music and everything.
Oh
Just
yeah.
that's a just different experience. I think
Yeah.
that's really cool. Now that you've achieved that, do you have you set another goal for yourself, or are you just going to be like, I'll just see as much as I can?
Yeah, so I kind of was like, oh well, I'll go do it. I'll go do the state parks. So I am still on that. I still do want to do the Pennsylvania state parks. We have 125. We had one that was added this year, so that was really exciting. But my motivation to get to them is definitely not where it was with the parks. In fact, there's like a couple parks that are really high on my like go back here list, and they're taking priority over the state parks at this point. I'm already planning those out, thinking about them. Other national parks in other countries too. My mom and I like went to Ireland and decided to hit a couple national parks while I was out there. So nothing really set in stone, just kind of I did it and I'm happy with that. I don't really
Yeah.
need to push myself for anything else at the
N-
time. Yeah.
No, I totally get that. That's great. Let me ask you, what was it like in the state parks, or excuse me, the national parks in other countries, like in Ireland? Were they, I mean, obviously besides differences in terrain and everything, was
Mhm.
there a different vibe or a different sense you got and how they're treated or how people see them or anything different culturally?
Yeah, I think they're funded differently. I first of all, in some countries, all of their like nationally protected areas are considered national parks. So they wouldn't have a national historic site and a national park. It's just all national park. I think that's
Mm,
how it is in Australia. So they have like 600 something, which sounds
wow.
crazy, but that includes like little, what we would call national monuments, like little, areas where there's some sort of monument to something. But it's definitely a little less developed, is I guess what I would say. Like there's at least the ones in Ireland, like there were some hiking trails, but there weren't nearly as many. Some of them are a lot smaller. There's not as many like infrastructure, like resources for camping, things like that. Not as many interpretive ranger programs. Like it's definitely more focused on conserving the resource than it is about the people,
Mm.
at least in the other countries that I've experienced national parks, which has only been Ireland, and I went to one in Iceland a bunch of years ago.
Okay. All right, cool. I mean, there's a lot to learn there.
Hmm.
Um, it, I know you, and I want to get to what you do in your position, but obviously, like having the passion and the appreciation and the sense of awe for all that is in the green spaces, all these beautiful places. How do you stay positive when it seems like there's a lot of dangers for the environment? And I mean, honestly, every day could be a different one, right? Like, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Just different ways to harming the environment. For me, I just like litter, and I think we talked about this litter.
Hmm.
It breaks my heart, and it does, but yet it warms my heart when I do see. I was watching reading different news clips from the World Cup, and like how Scotland was in the Scots were in Boston and
Oh
like
yeah,
cleaned
yeah.
up. They kept it clean, and Japanese visitors were cleaning up and things like that. And I mean, I'm not saying this to get negative or bash, but like I just see it in my own like
Hmm.
area, and have talked to people who, like a good friend of mine who lives in Canada, who's like, she comes home to the United States, Pennsylvania, and she's like, this a huge difference as far as the way we
Yeah.
treat the earth and ours. For me, it's like a lack of pride, or just maybe not even thinking about it. But like, how do you stay hopeful with so many threats to the environment? And I imagine what you do can help you stay hopeful because you're going out there advocating, you're being a steward, you're being hopeful in the sense of maybe approaching the youth, for
Yeah.
a better tomorrow. But tell me what that's like for you.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a challenge, right? Some days are better than others. It is easy to get discouraged. There are certain issues that I think it's more easy to get discouraged about than others, like climate change is one of them where at this point, there's not much we could do. It's pretty out of our control, which I think honestly at this point helps me. There was a time where I had some very severe climate anxiety, but now I'm like, okay, this is not something that I could focus on because it is out of my control, other than educating people on the topic, which I definitely still try to do and have those conversations. Um, as far as like a lot of other things go, though, what keeps my mindset good is looking back on what we were. And, like if you look back in the 1940s, we had smog events in our cities where people were dropping dead because the sulfur dioxide from coal burning power plants was mixing with water vapor and turning into sulfuric acid. So people were breathing that in and dying on the streets. We had rivers that were on fire. We had species that were rapidly, rapidly going extinct, and like no, we weren't doing anything about it. And now in 2026, even though things are unfortunately going in the wrong direction, they're not going so far in the wrong direction that we have rivers on fire and we have these smog events. And, we have like again, I've seen like a post on social media kind of recently where it was like, look at all of these species that are going extinct, and it's trying to raise the alarm. And I appreciate that to one extent because you're going to get people motivated. But I like ended up commenting on the post because I'm like, well, wait a minute. These ones that you're specifically featuring are actually these are symbols of hope because they're species that 30, 40 years ago had significantly fewer numbers. And yes, they're still listed as endangered, but people have made the effort to preserve them. And there are now programs and like parameters in place that are protecting these species. Like California condors was on the list as an example. They thought that they were going to be done for 30 years ago. And now we're here and we have a restored population that is out in California that, the program is slow go. It takes a long time for them to reach sexual maturity. So it's definitely a challenge. But if we post that story of hopefulness and get people motivated that way, I think that's more productive than sharing the doom and gloom of it. So I try to keep that front of mind when I think about things, especially from, a youth standpoint, by bombarding these young people with all of the bad that's going to happen. We're just going to overwhelm them and they're going to disassociate. So I think we need to inspire them with the hope more, and give them that angle of ways that they meaningfully, tangibly can get involved and make a difference.
Yeah. I think that is an important point because and it's hard because unfortunately, as we said before with the clickbait, social media is full of like everyone's hair is on fire, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
so it's like you could, and it's all like unless you take time to learn, and as you're pointing out how it used to be, not that we could say, oh well, it used to be, so let's just deal with, this, just be grateful. No, we still
Right.
need to be doing the right things, but to really learn and understand. And I was reaching here for my desk because I had this article I had to cut out: climate doom and gloom question mark, try laughing instead. I loved this article. It was activists embrace joy in the fight to save the earth. And this was, I forget where they were meeting. I feel like it was in upstate New York, but they're literally these groups of people who are taking a lighthearted approach
Hmm.
rather than my hair is on fire. And they were leading like laughter. Of course, that caught my attention, but I think it falls in line with what you're saying as far as the hopefulness, because the doom and gloom, and then you could feel heavy and you could feel, well, what's the point? I know I feel that
Right.
way sometimes. I say to myself, well, will it make a difference? Does it matter? But that's not going to do anything good. So at least with the hopeful, pointing out the positive, encouraging, it is a better approach in the sense that we can hope to make better change and to not be exhausted all the time.
Right, right, exactly. Or, what I'll do too is like there's a million things to worry about. Pick one or two to really be passionate and be the advocate for and champion. And I don't want to say ignore all the other stuff, but like you have to be a duck, let it kind of roll off of you and not get worked up about it and bogged down about it because you could only handle so much. And that's just advice for life in general, like everything
Yes.
going on right now, it's easy to get worked up about all of it, but that's just going to stall you out, and that's unfortunately a tactic. So I think really just focusing in on one or two key issues that you can control. For me, like it's expanding access to outdoor recreation is something that I'm passionate about because I think people who connect with nature are going to then empathize with nature and like kind of take that ownership, start to develop that sense of stewardship, and ultimately that's what's going to help us in the long term.
Yeah. Do you ever find I know for me, but I love what you're saying because whether it's environmental issues or any kind of issues, if we can't take on everything, and I think that's where the
Mhm.
fatigue comes from, and the more you scroll, the more fatigue. If you
Oh yeah.
depending on what your algorithm is, if you're just looking at
Mhm.
kittens, maybe not, but yeah, it's hard to stay positive and not feel exhausted. But is it difficult, or do you ever or is it a similar philosophy with what your choices every day? Because I know for me, like, you could get bogged down with that too, like, oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
that's very wasteful of me, or that's, trying to make those eco-friendly or eco-conscious decisions can be difficult in the world we live in, where I do think we tend to be kind of wasteful in our thinking, or but is it a similar philosophy where you're like, I focus on what I can definitely do and that's the way I go?
Yep. Yeah, I had a year where I tried to go zero waste and I was in the grocery store having a meltdown. It society makes it impossible to go zero waste. And there are so many things that are fully out of your control. And again, being educated on the issue is better. Like there are things that people are throwing in their recycling bin because they think they're doing a good thing, and it's actually just contaminating the recyclables, and now everything is going to waste. So it's like, not crying every time I'm throwing out a blueberry container because those blueberry containers aren't recyclable, and it ends up in the trash anyway. And a lot of times when it gets mixed in, they'll throw other things away that are recyclable. So not getting worked up about that, throwing it away, dealing with it, and then that way I know that like whatever is in my recycling bin is actually ending up at the recycling center at the end of the day. Or like, you know, I'm terrible at remembering my canvas tote bags. I have them in my car. I still don't remember them. I know that's the most basic thing, but I never will. But I also know that, I don't buy like bottled shampoo or conditioner. I use the bar stuff, and I've been using that for 5 years. So the amount of plastic I've offset with my occasional grocery bag that I'm using as trash can liners or for the cat litter or for whatever else, it's balancing itself out. So I really don't get too worked up about it anymore, after having that learning curve when I did try to go zero waste.
Yeah. And I think it is all about, I mean, it's again for life, whatever your issue is, it's like balance and
Hmm.
doing what you can. And it's like, I think the important thing is doing what you can and doing something. Cause I mean, you could
Yeah.
go like anything, you could look at the extremes where you're trying to do everything and then you end up being paralyzed because it's too much. Or the
Hmm.
other end where they're like, I don't care. Like, bring it. I mean, I don't look at anything in you could have that end. But as long as
Right.
you're like trying to maintain your sanity and do what you can, because I get like that with recycling for like
Hmm.
I was thrilled when Scranton Tomorrow was recycling K cups. And
Yeah.
so I brought them in there, and then the county, if they're still doing it, I hope, because I have two bags that I have to bring down there. In the county building, they were doing it, the recycling the K cups. So, because again, that was something I felt bad about. Someone's like, well, you don't
Hmm.
need to use the K cups. I'm like, I know, but they're convenient and my
Right.
coffee tastes good. And I'm like, but then I was beating myself up. So when I saw the recycling project, I was like, yes, I could feel better about this now.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. Like doing what you can and like trade-offs and yeah, if you forget your reusable coffee mug today to go and get coffee and you have a plastic cup, like don't beat yourself up over it. Just remember your reusable coffee mug tomorrow or make coffee at home or whatever. Like, it's not, again, it's the way our society is built, especially in the United States. We are a very consumeristic, wasteful society, unfortunately. And again, a lot of that is out of your control. So control what you can when you can and just, you know, do your best. That's
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
advice. Yeah.
That is, and it's over everything really, because you can
Yeah.
only control. I mean, I took an 8 week mindfulness based stress reduction course, and I mean, my learnings are popping up as you're talking. It's like, do your best you can today. And like you said, remember
Hmm.
tomorrow, we can always begin again. You
Yep.
know, okay, so you think you messed up today. Okay, let yourself off the hook and begin again,
Yep.
the next day or the next opportunity that you can. That's it. Well, I'd like to hear a little bit about what you do in your role and how you are educating and helping. I know you're a steward for the environment. You're passionate about the hiking and being outdoors, all the green space. How do you get to use that passion in your day job, so to speak?
Sure. So I work for Pennsylvania Environmental Council. We're a statewide nonprofit. We have four offices, one here in the Northeast, and then we also have one in State College, Philly, and Pittsburgh. And statewide, pretty much what we're focused on is a collaborative approach to conservation. So what we do is we bring everybody to the table, government, both sides of the party, businesses, other nonprofits, conservation organizations, all of those things, and we try to advance these environmental priorities, like, together basically, rather than polarizing and pitting things against each other. So the work that we do is really focused on like environmental restoration. So we do like some cleanup works, things like that. We also do some advocacy down in Harrisburg. We have a person on our staff who specifically goes and advocates for different bills that are, in the interest of conservation. And then we work to expand access to outdoor recreation, in recognition that outdoor recreation is a great physical and mental wellness kind of shaping thing. So it's kind of really, really geared towards quality of life for the people who live here. But then also we take the angle of the economic development opportunities that outdoor recreation offers, because people are going to come here and they're going to explore our trails and our rivers and streams and rock climbing and do all of these things. And if they're driving here all the way from New York or traveling from, a different state to come here, most likely they're also going to stay here. They're going to eat here, they're going to shop here, and all of those things are going to benefit our downtowns. So we end up kind of doing a lot of those things. It's really a mixed bag. Here in the Northeast, we do a lot of like partnership activities. We do a lot of convenings where we get like our trail groups and our land trusts and our environmental educators and all these different groups together quarterly in the same room so that they can resource share, network, and help to think about us more as a region rather than these individual entities to again advance some of that connectivity and that larger scale purpose.
I like what you're saying there because I do find, especially in this region, sometimes we have a little too much of we're here, we're over here, this is
Hmm.
what we do, this is what we do. It would be to all of our benefit in this region if it was more of a collaborative effort. And I know it sounds like that's what you're helping to bring about, which I think is important.
It's actually really incredible. Like, there's already a lot of that in the trail world. I know like it can sometimes feel like things are so siloed here. But I think that it's been in the trail world a lot. And I think in general, it's starting to break up. Like, I know, like, there's that invisible force field between Luzerne and Lackawanna County that people
Yep.
don't like to cross. But I
Yep.
do feel like that force field is weakening. I see a lot more people traveling between the borders there, and making less jokes about Scranton versus Wilkes-Barre. So I do think that people are recognizing that we are NEPA and not, our necessarily our individual areas. And we could still have that identity, but still at the end of the day, we are NEPA, we are the 570, whatever you want to call us. So in the trail world, there has been a really great recognition of that. And it was something that like I was so happy to jump into that mindset when I started this job and just see how well everybody worked together and collaborated together. And we have like a 10 county footprint. So, this
Mm.
is people up in the Endless Mountains collaborating with people in the Poconos that are, very different areas, but still there's shared challenges, shared opportunities, and they recognize that and they, do work together to advance those regional initiatives that are ultimately going to benefit both. So it's great to see.
Yeah. And I will credit your generation younger than me for the breaking that barrier that, the between the two counties. Cause I do feel that, I mean, and that was an older generation thing. It was, I mean, let's face it, if we go back, a couple generations ago, it was like, this is my church. It's like 2 blocks from
Right.
my house. You know what I mean? And things have opened up more. And I'm a Gen Xer. I worked at Blue Cross, which is now Highmark Blue Shield for 11 years.
Hmm.
And it was always funny when people are like, you drive all the way from Scranton to Wilkes-Barre every day. And
Hmm.
it's like, what do you do in the winter? I'm like, I just drive slower if it snows,
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
so, but I do see that's changing. And I think I credit like younger generations for doing more. Like I see you in Scranton sometimes. I've run
Hmm.
into you at a Philharmonic event, so I do feel like a younger, and I'm not going to just say younger people. I think it is getting to be more of a mindset, which is good. But I
Hmm.
feel like the younger generation doesn't have that issue as much with that barrier. So I think that is
Yeah.
hopeful, is what I'm saying. It really is a
Yeah.
good thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we start to wrap up, I want to make sure that we covered, like, is there anything else that, you had in your mind where like, oh, I thought we were going to talk about this, but we didn't, just so that I give you that opportunity before we close.
I mean, I guess just jumping back to safety a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Like so I always love going for a guided hike. I'm easy to find. If you ever are intimidated, like you said, it's never too late to get outdoors. I'm always amazed because there's these things that I think like, oh, everybody knows about that. And then like people have no idea what I'm talking about. And I love showing people. Anthony Melf actually he always talks me up because he's like, Rachel's so patient when I ask her all of these questions on our hikes and she tells me what these plants are like. And I always tell him like, no, I love that. You're not bothering me. Keep asking me questions. So if you want to learn more about our area, like what the things are, I'm happy to take anybody on a hike anytime. And then just, encourage you get out there and explore. Yeah, it is tick season, but they're not that bad. Wear your bug spray, cover up. If you do get one on you, it's okay. It has to be embedded about 24 hours for Lyme's disease. So as long as you check yourself, like I don't stress about ticks at all. Mosquitoes, same deal. Cover up, spray yourself. All of those things, they're part of the experience, but as long as you go in with that good mindset, you'll be okay.
It's so funny because that was one thought I did have. I was going to ask you about and forgot about ticks because I mean, I've been kayaking for the past maybe 7 years. So I get to the state park quite a bit and I used to be
Uh-huh.
doing trail running, but I'm not in the trails as much. But as we know, you can be in your own backyard and get a tick on you. I've heard many
Oh
people like
yeah.
Scranton, you could be anywhere. And I'm amazed. I'm so guilty that I don't do a thorough tick check, but I have so many moles. I joke on my body. I'm like, unless it's moving or like, I wouldn't know. I'd be like trying to rip out a mole. So I don't do tick checks and I'm amazed that I haven't gotten bit yet. But that is one of my like slight fears because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't check. And one of these days it's going to get me.
Yeah. I'm honestly like knock on wood, I'm pretty bad about it too. But yeah, like, shower when you get home, like those kind of things. There's ways around it, but a lot of people don't realize that it does for the most part. I'm sure there are exceptions, but like the tick needs to be in you for 24 hours in order for Lyme's disease to transfer. So people are so paranoid about Lyme's disease and rightfully so, but if you're on top of it and you are really paranoid about that, like just check yourself when you get home. And if you have one in, just take it out, make sure you get the whole thing out. But like you'll be okay if you were just out hiking an hour ago.
Yeah. And this is my own now that my hair's gotten longer. Can they get in your hair? They can, right?
Yeah, yeah. I, I don't know that, I mean, I don't know that it would ever make it to my scalp in this hair. Um,
But they
but
can't really live too long, right? And seriously, I don't know because I've heard, again, this is misinformation. I've heard, like, I
mhm.
always thought they were like on the ground, but I've
Yes.
had people tell me that they can come from branches. And I'm like, really? I didn't think that was true.
They're more going to be on the ground typically. They're going to be like, especially in leaf litter, this was something we did in college was like a little experiment. They were like really heavily in the leaf litter over the grassy areas, um, which is very interesting. But yeah, I mean, it more so they're going to be on the ground because they're going to have to crawl all the way to the top of that tree, and that's not prime for them. They're typically like their biggest hosts, and where Lyme's disease comes from is field mice. So they're not
Mm,
going to get a field mice up in that tree. They have more like, a higher chance of success if they stay on the ground.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. But then I was like, oh God, no, no. I'm like,
Yeah.
where they're going to be jumping, swooping in from all over the place.
No, no, yeah. More likely you're gonna find it crawling up your leg. Obviously they could crawl quick, so it could make it up into your hair, I guess, but that's not where they want to be, and that's most likely not where they're gonna go. And I have, again, knock on wood, I've never found one in my scalp, but I do have thick hair, so I don't know how easy it would be for one to make its way there.
Yeah. Are there resources that you recommend as far as before, let's say, I mean, obviously you're a great resource and if people do want to go for a hike, but is there like even like a certain website for outdoors that you would recommend for people? Like even just to like know what does a tick look like or what, the best spray or anything like that that you might want to recommend?
Um, that's a Good question. Maybe that's something that we could develop or do a blog about or something like that. Because Discover NEPA is a great resource for like local trails and
Mhm.
stuff. But we do have like some guest blogs sometimes on there. So maybe that would be a good one that I could throw on. But I don't, so ticks actually they go off of smell, so they smell you when you're coming. So that's why, sprays that have like citronella and some of those really strong scents that they don't like. They don't like garlic, they don't like mint. So those kind of things are going to help you out because it's going to mess with their senses.
Okay.
But yeah, like, just do your Googling, do your research, figure out what works best for you because everybody's different too. I personally don't like using DDT stuff. Other people
Hmm.
swear by it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I had ordered something on Amazon a few years back, maybe even during COVID. I don't even remember this giant yellow bottle of something that
hmm.
was supposed to be put on my shoes or my clothes. I've never used it. I
Oh,
don't know.
yeah, the permethrin. Yeah,
Yes, I think that
that's a
was it.
big thing. People treat their clothing with that because that's supposed to be like top of the top notch. Like people in the field use that stuff because you treat your clothing with it and then it stays on. I haven't used it. People always tell me to use it. I have not. But yeah, especially if you're paranoid, why not do these things that make you feel safer and feel calmer, especially when you're doing that, and then you could always ease off of it later.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like knowing about the garlic. That way you'll keep the ticks and the vampires away. So
There
that's
you
good to know.
go. Uh-huh.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Rachel. I will be reaching out to you because I would love to see some of these other places that I haven't been to. I'd love to pick your brain and hear different things that you could educate me about from the different like that route you mentioned. Like, there's so much stuff I don't know. So I do want to thank you again because I find all of this so interesting, and I hope the folks who are listening do, and I hope they consider trying hiking if they haven't gone out there. It's a great time. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank my listeners. As always, if you know someone who would like to be on the podcast, as I say each week, I do like to highlight or amplify the voices of women. So if that woman is you, please feel free to reach out to me, Janine Luby, on LinkedIn, Facebook, or find me Funny Wine Girl Janine on Facebook and Instagram. Or if there's someone in your life who maybe doesn't want to toot their own horn and you're like, oh my gosh, she's fabulous. First of all, it's like, oh my God, Sarah's wonderful. Well, ask Sarah if she'd be comfortable talking on the podcast, then connect us. That would be great. And if you would like to help support conversations like this, please reach out to me. I have affordable packages for podcast sponsorships and one time shout outs for $25. Even if you don't have a business, if you just want to support this kind of content, I'm celebrating 5 years. That's a lot of conversations that I'm really proud of. And, I don't do this as a job. So if you want to help support it, that would be great. And if you're thinking, Janine, I'm being sold to by everyone. Okay. If you don't have a budget for it, that's okay too. You can also help by sharing the podcast. Share it with a friend, a foe, anyone you know, write a review. Any way like that is helpful as well. So, as I say each week, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.